Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. It is late at night, it's about 8:30, hence the low light. One of these days I'm going to get me some decent light bulbs. But anyway, so I just wanted to make a brief video based on something I just read from Kotaku. You gotta love the sane, rational, reasonable people at Kotaku. But anyway, there's this author, writer, activist, I don't know what you want to call this guy, but Paul Tamayo, I believe his name is, and he wrote this agonizingly long article about the video game Journey to the Savage Planet, right? Now, the purpose of his article isn't really to be a review of the game. They do have a review of the game written by another writer, written by another reviewer. But the point of this particular article is not to review the game, not really. He gives a very brief synopsis and then goes on for forever and one day about how the word savage has these racist, in his opinion, these racist connotations and racist history, right? And that it shouldn't have been used for the game. Right, it shouldn't be part of the game's name. Here's the question I have for Mr. Tamayo and for others who may agree with him on this point. Here's the question I want to ask. When is it enough? How many words do you have to ban? Right? How many words do you have to cancel before we finally are able to say words that don't offend anybody or don't have any negative connotations? Because honestly, the way I see it is that if we keep being overly sensitive about words, right? I'm not talking about the use of words or the certain connotations they can have, right? Words have very different meanings depending on, first, the language you're speaking, right? There is that. But then they also have difference depending on intent, depending on use, depending on content and context, right? There are positive connotations. There are negative connotations, and this goes for nearly any word, pretty much. So my question is, how many words do you have to strike from the English language, or from any language, before we have words that are approved and acceptable by Kotaku, by writers at Kotaku? When is it enough? Let me ask this, since this Mr. Tamayo's objection to the word savage is that it is, in his opinion, racist, or has a very racist history, right? Because of U.S. colonialism and the oppression of the Native American tribes and all that. Well, here's the first thing I would like to bring up to him, being someone who is part Native American. Mr. Tamayo, did you really think that the native tribes that were here, right, we're just living peacefully among each other? Because if you do think that, then I have a surprise for you. They weren't. They were fighting and warring and making peace and making war just like all the other peoples of the world. Okay? They were warlike tribes such as the Apache. They were more peace-loving tribes who sadly don't come to mind at the moment, right? But they were fighting amongst each other, okay? There were old grievances, there were old rivalries, just like anything else with any other culture and country. And then look, I'm not trying to in any way justify for a second, the oppression of the settlers or anything or like that. But here's the thing. It's not like what was known as the New World at the time was just peaceful, and everybody's just sitting smoking the peace pipe and just living a peaceful life. They weren't. Okay, they were living a life that was full of violence, and there was times of peace, and there was times of feast and famine, just like any other part of the world. The cultures may have been different, but the experiences were strikingly similar. You can look at any country's history, any tribe's history, and you'll find a lot of things are similar. So here's the first thing. The second thing is that, okay, let's say you strike the word savage out. Okay, that means now the band Savage Garden, right? Ooh, I want you, I don't know if I need you, but ooh, I die to find out. Yeah, that band. Now they need to find a new name because you're offended by the word savage and you feel that it has racist connotations. So there's that. But let's see here. Let's look at other words now that might have to go if this guy had his way because, well, they're offensive. Well, let's see here. Jane's Addiction is about to lose their name because, well, an addiction is a bad thing, right? You don't want to have an addiction. You don't want to encourage a drug problem, do you? Well, let's see. Audio Slave has to go because, well, slaves were, oppressed peoples and they were made to work and their humanity wasn't respected, so that has to go. Well, the gun in Guns N' Roses certainly has to leave now because, guns are violent murder machines and tools of death, depending on some people, right? That need tighter and tighter regulation because that's helping. But anyway, so we gotta take the word gun out now, right? So Guns N' Roses needs a new name. You also gotta change the name of Velvet Revolver now. You gotta take that out. Oh, what else? Let's see here. What about the word evil? What about the word evil? Evil has been used to justify conquering other peoples, claiming that they're evil, right? These heathens are evil. We should take over because we are good and just. Well, now you have to change the name of the game Resident Evil. Now you have to change that. What about the word king, right? King is dangerous. It's a male ruler. It's patriarchal. So now King of Fighters has to go, right? What about assassin, right? An assassin's a contract killer. You can't have that, right? So now Assassin's Creed is gone, right? And I could go on and on and on and on and on forever and a day about this. Look, when you have someone like this, who in my opinion is overly sensitive about words, and especially about the various meanings and connotations a word can have, this is the problem you're eventually going to run into. You're eventually going to run into the logical conclusion of ban all the words. The funny thing is that, I don't know if it's funny, maybe funny is not the right word, but this guy's response, it kind of reminds me, I don't know if everybody's going to get this, but if you've ever seen or read Yu Yu Hakusho, right, there comes a point where Kurama, who's like the resident strategist on the team, he ends up going against a guy named Kaito, I think it is. And they actually play this word game where as time goes by, they lose a letter in the alphabet, right? So over about an hour or so, right, time is ticking by, and they can't say certain letters in the alphabet, so their ability to speak becomes more and more restricted. Until by the end of it, every letter in the alphabet has been stricken and they can't say anything. They can't say a word. They can't speak, because if they say anything, they're gonna say one of the letters, and then whoever does that ends up losing their very soul. And while people's souls are not on the line, fortunately, in this case, I guess, with Mr. Tamayo, right? Your ability to express yourself and to express your thoughts and feelings is, if people like him are allowed, or rather, if his ideas are embraced by people in power, then we are slowly, over time, going to lose the ability to express ourselves, and it's already happening. Look at a platform like YouTube. Right now, many content creators, Tim Pool and many others, constantly talk about how they can't say certain words, or how they've had to cut back or cut down on profanity or using certain terms in certain language, because YouTube will either shadow ban them or derank them or demonetize them. This is what happens. This is censorship. When it becomes increasingly difficult for people who are supposed to be living in a free society to speak as they wish and to express themselves as they wish, when you have to constantly worry about these rules and regulations and somehow being penalized for it, that is censorship. And that, in my opinion, especially when people are discussing important things like news and politics and whatnot, is, in my opinion, oppressive and disgusting. We should be able to express ourselves freely. I don't always have to like the way you express yourself. I'm not a big fan of heavy swearing in general. But if that's the way a person decides to express themselves, I don't have the right, especially since they're not like my kid or anything, I don't have the right to tell them how to speak. Now, I can decide whether or not I want to listen to their message, because I do believe, especially if you want other people to hear you or to converse with you, I think presentation, including the words you choose, are important. But in the end, however you want to express yourself is up to you. And I have no say over that, and I don't want any say over that. But we're increasingly coming into a situation, at least online, where words are being stripped from us, right? They're making you zip your lips under threat of penalty. Or in the case of this guy, being overly worried about offending somebody because a word has not always positive connotations. Okay, what about the word smash, right? Smash can have a violent meaning. Smash can have a sexual one. Do we now need to rename Super Smash Brothers? Right? These are the type of situations you run into when this type of faux progressivism runs amok. And this is the world that we're living in. That a word should be canceled because it's been used to describe people negatively. Guess what then? You might as well ban all language. And I certainly don't want to see that. But I do want to tell Mr. Tamayo this. As someone who is descendant of slaves on one side and savages on the other, I am neither slave nor savage. I am more than just my ethnic background and my ethnic history. I'm a New Yorker. I'm a middle-aged, grumpy woman from New York City who makes videos and who holds a job and who takes care of sick family and who looks after her brother and who goes to work, puts in her time, pays her bills, needs a nap, and various other 100 things that make up who I am. I am a person. I am not defined by my skin color. I am not defined by my gender. And I am not defined from being descendant of people who were enslaved. I am not enslaved. And I refuse to let these simple words have power over me. They don't define me in any way, shape, or form. Learn to see people as people instead of being worried about possibly offending them. So, this half-breed is going to bid you all a good night. See you around and have a good weekend. Bye.